are going to cover what is GX Reloaded, and that's going to be the least time-consuming element, because the answer to that question is the entirety of the webinar. We will talk about that just as a conceptual framework. Moving on from that, we will be talking about the paradigm shift that has taken place. And by the way, if there's just like a transactional questions, no problem. Ask the transactional questions. Anurag, please note those down so we'll get them answered as well. Obviously, because I won't be addressing those in like public forum, but yeah, just please make sure you get them down. I do want to get them. With that being said, the first thing we're going to address obviously is what is this paradigm shift, and then we're going to go into what are the components that make this paradigm shift a practical manifestation. I will conclude it. So there's three things that make it a practical manifestation. And then I will conclude it with what it is that any person who is interacting with Global Exchange or its various entities from today onward can interact with us on, and how they could engage with us. That's going to be, so basically it'll start with how we got here, what it is that's releasing today, and the last element is what the new person coming into Global Exchange will experience. And I think that agenda lays out the great framework for what is GX Reloaded. Alan, by the way, anytime, just give me the look and I will toss it over to you. So the GX Reloaded came out of a let's call it a long form meditation that went over the span of 2020. Really, what we experienced in 2020, well, first of all, nobody's 2020 was particularly benign. So we're definitely not an anomaly as a company, as a human, as a country, however you want to denominate that. But what we experienced in 2020, first and foremost, as a participant in the cryptocurrency markets, in conjunction to our business model within the cryptocurrency markets, in conjunction to the roadmap that we are trying to accomplish, that obviously is coming from previous to 2020. What we experienced was a fabulous uptick in business from the perspective of the fact that COVID was good for crypto, just generally speaking. And that's a huge generalization. We could obviously go into details on another webinar about what that actually means. But generally speaking, it was a sector-wide benefit. So we were lucky in that regard. In terms of what our business model exemplified during that time, this doesn't mean that it was executed. It just means that the model was validated or not. So several elements of our business models were very much, gave us a lot of positive feedback. Again, I want to make that clear from execution of those business models. Just from the fact that if you were selling, if you were operating an AT&T store, physical AT&T store during COVID, your business model might be fabulous, and the execution just is not happening. Sorry, the other way around. Your execution might be fabulous. Your store could be immaculate. Every employee could be doing everything perfectly. Inventory could be immaculate, and yet, unfortunately, your business model was put up to the test, and it didn't do too well. For us, it was the inverse. And I guess that's a unique position as a business, because for most businesses, their execution, and I'm obviously now generalizing beyond belief, the execution is what COVID hurt. The business model is what COVID hurt, and the execution is what they relied on. In our part, it was the other way around. The notion that any human with Global Exchange, could monetize a virtually, unlimited network of transactional revenue that never seemed to be more prophetically profound than in 2020. I said notion for a reason, because that was validated, and then what we needed to do, and I guess we have a little bit of time left in 2020, but we needed to do is execute that. In order to execute that, because we came to this crossroads that to some degree was our doing, some degree was secular trends, health trends, what we realized is this opportunity that we thought was gargantuan. When I created Global Exchange in 2018, I thought what we were doing was bananas, just in terms of how big the opportunity could be. But that was based in just a sunrise view of the cryptocurrency markets, which I think we all share. What COVID showed us is, wow, like even without crypto going to whatever heights you want to see it go to, the business model of being able to deploy leverage over a digital financial brokerage, I mean, is a mind-boggling concept that would have proven to be, life-changing. So that realization gave us a sense of cautiousness and responsibility, where we said, all right, well, okay, then this is nice. This is great that this is what we are, but we cannot press ahead without fully building the foundation. And for those of you that have been with us for, like, let's say before March or February of this year, that my sentence would have rang perfectly clear. If you joined us after March, it might not make as much sense, but I'll give you context. We were successful, like very successful, in expanding the brokerage network, expanding the business model as I've explained it between May of 19 and let's just even call it January of this year. Extremely successful. Actually, in the month of January, super successful. But that's when I had this kind of epiphany, which is that, okay, well, it seems what we're really good at is expanding this business model as an idea. And we obviously had some components of our software stack that made it feasible, but it wasn't that the software stack was carrying the day. That's for sure. It wasn't that the procedures and the underlying infrastructure was carrying the day. Really, what was carrying the day was the notion of this business model that could work. And when all of these things converged, and obviously I'm leaving out some things, but I mean, when these things converged, it was clear to me that, like, oh, whoa. Just continuing on the notion that this business model could work is still going to prove great success if we just put the pedal to the metal and just sign people up and grew the business between March or let's say January of this year and now. I mean, are you kidding me? Like, can you imagine how much people would have sat at home and been kind of, more interested in crypto, more desperate to make money? We could have been cannibalistic on that front. However, sorry.
Let me cut in.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, I couldn't hear what you're saying.
I want to cut it down a little bit more to layman's terms. If you picture a car with no power steering and no, intermittent wipers and heated seats and all this stuff, you still have a car. And so you have this car and you were building this car, but you had the basics, the engine's in there, the transmission, the four wheels and the steering wheel, and you could go, but it didn't have all the great pieces. It didn't have automatic door locks, and it didn't have all the great pieces that need to be there to capture basically everyone. And so you went along, and of course, there's a lot of programming, guys. I got to tell you, this is a lot of programming. And so you went along and you got busy and you got yourself caught up trying to, fix repairs with something because some of the parts weren't there. COVID-19 comes along, wipes out the country, the world for about 4 months straight. You sat down with your 97 people and went crazy to fix and put in every little piece that was needed. All the power windows and the power, steering wheel and power steering wheel, everything, automatic brakes and automatic door locks and, the whole these little features like a Rolls Royce. And so we come today, and he ain't talking about what's going to be there tomorrow. He's not talking about the dream that he had from day one. Okay. And that dream he had from day one is actually 20 years projected. But he didn't have anything right away. But everybody that's on this call that has been in this business, they saw something. They knew the dream was there. It didn't change. The dreams only got bigger, better, faster, and grown way beyond what it was. Now he's spent the last 4 months with all the programmers, and he's developed all those little pieces. That instant in, to be able to get that crypto right away and be in and stuff. And there's many other things that is really important. And one, of course, is the broker right at the top, okay? To make the broker absolutely satisfied so he doesn't have any feedback from customers as he's moving forward. So he went through every little aspect of it and said, okay, we got the engine, we got the tranny, we got the wheels, now what are we missing? Okay, let's put doors on. Well, we have to put a roof in case it rains, and you start putting all these pieces on. He's put all the pieces on. This is where we're at today. And he's not going to tell you about what's coming because there's a couple things coming. But what really matters is everything that's right now. So the dream that everybody had when they first saw it is the same dream he was trying to envision, but he just hadn't had enough time to get every piece in place. And when he's putting those pieces in place, guy's time's worth a lot, right? He's got a lot of people to deal with as far as the programmers. To have to keep up all these distributors COVID-19 gave him a break. It gave him a break. He got stuck in a country and he had to work in that country. It gave him a break. And that was the time that he was able to go back and say, okay, here's what we're missing. We didn't have a door. We didn't have a spare tire. We didn't have the intermittent wipers. Let's get the intermittent wipers. Let's get the door. Let's get the roof so when it's rain, the guy's covered. Let's get all those pieces. So right now you have a full and robust system, which in my opinion, if you compare it to anything in the world today, well, there isn't one. If you compared it to how the world would look like 20 years from now, he's bringing that here today with one extra feature. He's putting the ownership in your back pocket.
I was going to say,
20 years from now, well, how it's going to look, how the world would look, the ownership's in your back pocket. The best example is in 2020 or 2001, 2002, people thought to themselves, maybe, I think I should get a website. You know, I want a presence. I'm going to get, you know, my business picture, company, and then an address. And then that's what most people were thinking. Maybe I should get a website. Other people were like, I got a full, robust website, and I'm just going to do nothing but sell online. And of course, everybody laughed at that. Nowadays, if you go to open even a restaurant, you're going to have a website right now. So think about it 20 years later, what it would look like, how it would look like. Everybody would have all of these things. You may not be able to use them all. You may not be able to understand every one of them as he's going to go technically, right? You're not. But I'll tell you what, it's all in your back pocket. So as you take this learning curve, and the whole world is taking it, as you take this learning curve, all those pieces are already there. Okay, I think he wants to speak now.
well, yeah, but by the way, I find it just incredible that you said we built a car, no door, no window. But I mean, it was fine. I'm not. Alan, appreciate the analogy. Everybody, that's really what you just saw right now is like quintessential Alan. You know, that's his. He's just a remarkable conveyor of complex topics in a way that people need to hear. But I do get what Richard Miller saying. Said let's see the new car. Well, like any good showman, we had to build it up first, build up the hype. Although not build up the hype, we weren't really good at that, but we had to build up the requirement for the car. So let me just now quickly address what we think is important to show today. One of the things Alan said, I don't want this to be misconstrued. If there's a couple things that you take away from today, I'm going to keep reiterating those couple things. And by the end, I'll reiterate them. They're very simple. So and I'll add to that list of concrete things to take away. So I don't want to speak in hyperbole when it comes to this. Okay. Everything you or you could have loved, or you could have loved about Global Exchange's product, or desire to love, meaning you loved the idea had it worked as well as you would have wanted to, is now complete and is releasing this weekend. What that also means, just to put that out there, and you'll see when I show it to you, is that what you knew to be Global Exchange in terms of some of the, just the buttons and the way that you used it, is no longer going to be the case Monday morning. So this is going to take a little bit of a short-term learning curve. But that's, I think, the crux of GX Reloaded, which is that there's, like, let me give the stats up front. We probably, and when I say probably is because I try very cautiously not to include duplicate accounts or something like that, because some people create two emails. We have approximately 9,000 users, free users, like people that just signed up. And out of those 9,000 users, there's probably about 4,000 of them that have made a transaction in any capacity. Like a transaction could be a $1 deposit, or it could be a $100,000 trade. I mean, just a transaction. Could be becoming a broker, whatever it is. And then there were in the height of, let's say, staked brokers, there was probably about 2,900 active licenses when it comes to brokers. So that we did that, like I said, in a span of had to be like 9 months. And yes, I mean, that's all relative. So I could say it's a success. I could say it's a failure. I'm always more hard on myself. So I would say it's probably not as good, but it was something. It was quite vicious growth without the door and the ceiling. That's what I think Alan would say. This is where I'm kind of coming to right now. Even if that was the true, and even if those numbers were multiplied by 10, nobody knows about us. Like whoever I'm speaking to right now, you are so strange because you know about us. You're such an anomaly because you actually know about us before September 18th, 2020. Because the global exchange that the world will get to experience, they won't even believe what you say to them, good, bad, or indifferent. They won't even believe that there was what you're going to explain as this is how global exchange used to work, and like this is what we had to go through. It's just not going to happen. I mean, for those of you who have kids, you know what that feeling's like, right? Like, hey, this is how we used to listen to music, and they're like, wait, what? And why I'm saying that is because that change starts today, and it's going to be dramatic, and it's going to be noticeable, well, very noticeable, and it's going to be the people that are able to grab onto it and see what the changes, the fundamental changes that we're making, and how much money you can make off of that. Those people are just going to dominate. And really, the people that have been here for the longest might not be able to even grasp that, whether they want to or not. I'm just saying it might just because. With that being said, I would say that is just noticeable, and I'm going to be empathetic to people that need a little bit of time to wiggle into it. We're going to deploy as much support as we can to try to get everybody up to speed. Obviously, we're going to release effectively after this webinar, because we have been kind of holding everything off until this webinar because we didn't want to half-ass the release of these things without explaining why, what, how. Okay, so that covers up until today. Let me explain what it is that we're implementing product-wise, and then what it is that we're implementing culture-wise. So product-wise is my forte, culture-wise is Alan's forte, but it's a marriage. And we've actually been abysmal at that marriage. I mean, it probably is a divorce by this point. But that right there is the key, because I do believe, and maybe you guys can attest once we see them today, that these are legitimately unparalleled products. There's just nothing even in the realm of what we're talking about. That could be good or bad, by the way, but it is the case. But that doesn't mean much sitting on a shelf. That means much if it has microphones who have microphones, who have microphones, who have microphones, who can translate it in multiple languages and multiple levels of understanding. You get my point. And that is almost invariably tied to culture. And this has been really culture and communication, two things I don't think I'm really keen on, but that's just something that I had to then compensate, and bringing in world-class leadership to be able to do that. And so I want you guys to be, for the people who are product-oriented, I'm sure there are customers of ours that are just product-oriented. They're like, listen, honestly, just show me how the product works, and if it's good, I'm going to use it. You guys will gravitate towards everything I'm saying. But everybody else, out of the numbers that I named, they don't need just a product flush. They also need a paradigm flush. And so GX Reloaded is not a product. It's not even like a marketing strategy. What it really is an internal reset so that we could have the marriage of culture and product. So we're going to always just kind of go back and forth between, I'm going to talk in depth about a product. We're going to bring that back to how Alan is driving that forward practically and conceptually to the brokerage market. And remember, I'm always going to be clear. When I'm speaking to the existing people, I'll tell you. And when I'm speaking to the new person, I'll tell you, because they're starkly different. And obviously the existing people are a minority in terms of what we hope to accomplish in the next little bit. Okay, great. So what is the number one issue with global exchange? Please don't take this as an opportunity to berate the comments. I'm here. I'm still listening. I will go out and say it because we've obviously done our considerable amount of critical research. The number one issue, and this is coming from people that adore us, even the person that thinks, Sharpan, this is some wild stuff, man. This is phenomenal. They have this single critique. And it's a very valid one. And it's one that I don't think that there's a fundamental solution for, but we're attempting to solve it, which is PayPal their fees. Is people paying PayPal their fees? All right, cool. Well, any type of technical solutions are actually quite feasible to fix. I wish the number one problem was like PayPal. We could probably fix it. However, the problem is, and for guys, by the way, I completely appreciate if what I'm saying right now is not making sense to you because you've only interacted with the narrow element of global exchange, maybe to buy crypto or something like that. I get it. I apologize that this is a little bit more, high, like not just high level, but just abstract than maybe what you expected. You will get the product release stuff. Don't worry. I will be Steve Jobs on this call. I will show you the iPhone, but it's important to also address what Patrick just said. He nailed it. Needless to say more. Even my explanation of the problem wasn't simple. That's how bad this is. And so let me recuperate what Patrick said, which is this. If you were in an elevator, and unless that elevator was the Empire State Building or the CN Tower, Burj Khalifa, exclude those. If you're in a normal size elevator and someone said, hey, what does global exchange do? You couldn't answer them. I couldn't even answer them because I would say, well, I hope this elevator is going up a long time. And right? Alan, please, 1 second, because I don't want you to impose the answer until I explain why that issue was even the case. So the reason for that was as Patrick articulated, simplicity. I think it's a little bit more than simplicity. I think what it is priority. Like, I just think that that's always the most difficult thing to do. Again, another quote by Steve Jobs is like, focus is not knowing how to focus on something, it's knowing how to say no to everything. And so that right there, which is saying, hey, we need a clear hierarchy of priorities. And that hierarchy of priorities has to be baked into our engineering, has to be baked into our compensation, has to be baked into our culture, has to be baked into our leadership, has to be baked into our marketing, and so on. That was clearly not there. Because for me, the simplicity or the intuitiveness of a product is there, even pre-reloaded. I mean, I'm not saying everything's perfect, but like, I think that if you were interacting with the narrow element of the current global exchange system, you might be able to figure it out. Again, not Apple, definitely not. But it's not that it's just fundamentally flawed. What I think is more the issue, and I think what Patrick's highlighting, is that the entirety is not simple. And what I want to take that onto is that our goal is not simplicity per se, although that's what we try to inspire based on what I'm about to say, but our goal is a clear hierarchy of priorities, and that then being visual in all of the things that we do, of course, starting with the products. So let me clarify and say what that actually looks like moving forward. Every vision, if you go back and watch any of my webinars, if you go back and watch my first presentations on global stuff before even you could watch stuff about me before there was a global exchange. And what you would see is a couple points that repeat itself, not so structured, not so organized, because I didn't think that I was creating like a manifesto per se. I just thought that these are the things that matter. These are the problems that need to be solved. And those problems are what people gravitated toward. I'm talking about people gravitating towards that when it was just nothing, right? Let alone when there was then the first, additional stuff. The problems that we wanted to set out to solve were as following. And if you have anything to add, so you can add them here. Number one was the easiest, or attempting to be the easiest onboarding, offboarding ramp for obviously the traditional asset class, which is fiat currencies, into crypto, which is a digital asset class. Sounds like a really beautiful sentence to say. It couldn't be more miserable to try to accomplish, because it is, I've expressed that, why that's the case technically, why it's the case legally, why it's the case. It's just a complex subject. We'll address that. But that was definitely, there's no question about that the majority of people who gravitated toward global exchange and will gravitate toward global exchange are interested in that, and that alone probably. Okay, great. The second one was a opportunity to be agnostic. Now, this might not be something most of you remember getting, and I'm speaking to people that heard enough of it. We always wanted to be agnostic. We wanted to be exchange agnostic. So it's not like we were an exchange, we were routing to exchanges. We wanted to be currency agnostic. We wanted to be country agnostic. We never wanted to solicit investments, because we wanted that to be an agnostic. We really, that was the notion, that was the underpinnings for quote unquote the operating system, which was that you can take this OS and do what you want with it. You can build something that saves the world. You can build something that harms the world. You can build something that makes you rich. You can build something that makes you poor. That was always our notion, like just making it agnostic. Okay, that was number two. Number three, and this is probably the one most people care about, which is the notion, and yes, absolutely, what Ian's saying, truly decentralized. And to me, there's so much to unpack in what even decentralized means, but to me, decentralized means, and definitely a word I've thought about recently, a long time, is agnostic, because you have no opinion on the use of your protocol. That's what one mandatory, like nobody, the Bitcoin algorithm doesn't care what in God's name is happening on it. It cares that it functions according to its algorithm. So it's agnostic. Number two, it has to be anonymous. This is something that we haven't accomplished yet. I really, it's over a several year roadmap. There's no question about that. It has to be the destination, or at least quasi-anonymous. And then three, which is there isn't a colossal point of failure whereby the network doesn't know about it. And so those are the two things that we're yearning to accomplish every day. I think we've been pretty good with the agnostic thing, by the way, but always trying to get better. But that was one of the core tenets. Okay. So the next one would be, so that's tenet number two. Tenet number three I think is the reason we're all here together. The reason what connected all of us together, which is the ability to earn money off of those first two tenets. I mean, that is if you said, Sharpan, what's your most profound contribution to the world? Even without me expressing what some of the other things I've done, I would say it's that. I would say that I created the first way in crypto that you can make money without pitching an investment, particular coin, a particular investment, a particular vehicle. You could transactionally benefit. And I'm not saying I'm the only one now, and I'm not saying we're even the best one now, but we were definitely, early on to this. And I think after you see what we're going to show you today, we are the best ones now. But that was just without a question to me, which is that influence is what I call your network. Your influence should be monetized, and your influence shouldn't be subjugated to partisanship, right? If you want to pitch an investment, be my guest. You can do that on Global Exchange by yourself, but you're not forced to. And so that was the broker. That was GX Broker, helping people get into crypto, and you're going to get compensated from that. Cool. Above and beyond that, we've obviously had ancillary objectives. We've obviously had ancillary things that people fell in love with, and this, that, and the other. Definitely never given up on anything on those. But these are the three things that overwhelmingly people would gravitate towards. I mean, I could think that there could be an element of security. I think that might go into Ian's topic of decentralization. But I think that more or less it's those three. Okay. How? And this is the key. This is the big question I hope to answer today. Sharpan, if those are your objectives, what accomplishes those that you currently offer? And I think that gap is what these products fix. So today we're going to divide the release of the products into those three categories. So if you think about the breadth of every possible thing you've heard from Global Exchange, from the things that we've repeated over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, maybe something like the broker chain, which has clearly been executed and been used by everybody, to something we might have just mentioned one in an off chance that everybody has forgotten about. If you just think about the entire gambit of things that have come out of my mouth, I want all of that to distill into 5 pillars, of which only 3 matter to this call. The 3 that I already said, I'm now going to articulate them in what you're going to see in kind of our concise mission statement, you're going to continuously see this rhetoric. Number 1, and it's based in that hierarchy, so that because without the hierarchy of priorities, you're never going to know which one we care about more. And if you don't know which one we care about more, then there's going to be an issue, because you're not going to be able to appropriately calculate. And we don't want to be wild cards. Okay. The most important thing to do is get people access to crypto. I think all of us agree on that, or out of crypto, just on board, off board. That is the most important thing to do. That is the largest opportunity, the biggest problem. Nobody has a solution for it, because it's a colossally very difficult problem. But that is, if you can wave a wand and said, okay, I will try to speak in English, potentially maybe slower, and maybe Alan could cut into some of the things I'm saying, because that might be correct. I might just be saying things that are jargonized. Alan, I apologize. Okay, so
yeah, let me jump in then while you're there. What we're really talking about, the very little first part of somebody coming in the industry of cryptocurrency. They don't need to know all the depths and stuff when they get there, but they need to figure out how they can just get in very easily, very short order. They don't have to go through the 4-day to 4-month cryptocurrency learning curve in a simple format. That is a very tough situation to fix. And so what he's done, and I know when I say this, he's going to cringe and say, no, it's way better now.
Don't say it.
I'm going to say it because he overemphasizes all the technical side, which the regular guy doesn't need to see. Skyscanner. If you've ever used Skyscanner, everybody's ever used Skyscanner, you go online, you punch in, I want to go from Toronto to Beijing, China. I want to get there. I want to leave on Tuesday, and I want the cheapest flight. And then up comes, in about 30 seconds, they'll search every single airline in the entire world, and they'll find you the one that gets you the shortest. They'll find you one that gets you the cheapest price. And then once you decide you pick it, and whether it's going to be Air China or Air Canada, once you pick it, you go to their platform and then you book it up. That's how it works. And that is the most amazing system in the world. It's kind of like a Google search just for airlines. And what ends up happening, I've had people come to me and say, oh, I can get you the best rates on flying. Go ahead. And then the guy comes back with $389, and in about 2 minutes or less, I've got $275. And he's like, how'd you do that? I'm telling you, they search every single airline in the world and put them in order. The offers are on the table right then and there. There's nothing faster. There's nothing cheaper. It is the best system. I don't care which company put it up. It's the best system. What he's done, in essence, has created a, a sky scanner. In other words, you're going to be able to go in, and instead of having to go Google search Bitcoin, and then when you get there and you sign up, they don't take Visa, and they certainly don't take anybody out of Canada. Huh? Okay, so you Google search Bitcoin in Canada with Visa, and then you go search, and then it said, oh no, you got to go through KYC, and you got to wait 10 days. Oh no, I need it in 3. Okay, so you Google search Bitcoin Canada Visa in 3 days, and you got to go through this. You end up signing up 2 or 3 different companies to be able to put your credentials in and say, listen, I want to buy Bitcoin. I'm in Toronto. I want to use a credit card, or what is the best way to pay? To be able to put that in, and up comes all the options 24/7. That is amazing. And that entiles every company you can think of to come and join. So go ahead. Sure.
Well, you genuinely just started explaining it, so that's good, I guess. The first pillar being obviously getting people access to crypto. People that have watched some of the videos may have known where I'm heading with this. The most important part of our business is that's one that all the brokers really care about. That's one the customers care about. So let's figure out how we're going to solve that. Guys, for the sake of time, and maybe because Alan covered some of it, I'm going to leave out the context, the business context, which I think you should actually very much go and look at some of my previous webinars, podcasts that I've done about the current state of the OTC market, one that we are a participant in, I'm just glad everybody on this call only knows that market. And very similar to what Alan just said, we're about to release not a better phone. We're about to release the iPhone when everybody thought you needed keyboards. I mean, and that really just means we're imposing something whereby we're not a competitor. We're not, now iPhone is not a competitor to something that doesn't even, relate to that in terms of its capacity. That's what Alan is trying to get across. Skyscanner is not an airline. Really, it's not. And there's not a question. They don't own a single flight. They don't take a single flight. They don't do any of that stuff. Skyscanner stepped out of that domain and said, you know what's really valuable? Getting everybody access to this information in an organized fashion, and then managing the transaction, which is what Skyscanner doesn't do. They actually just redirect you to the website. So the first pillar of global exchange, this is the one that should be tattooed on your heart. Well, all 5 pillars will be, and let me just go through 5 of them and I'll go straight into this one. First one, getting people access to crypto. The second one is helping them expand their crypto portfolio. That one is going to be like a bombshell I dropped today, truly bombshell. And if you're afraid of complexity, technical complexity, that one is going to be rough. Because even Alan and some of the people that I've worked closely with have known the full depth of what it is that's coming from us tonight on that subject. Because the access to crypto thing, people have kind of known what we're doing. So first one, always remember, access to crypto. The second one, growing your crypto portfolio. The third one, monetizing your influence, brokers. The fourth one, which is not relevant to this call, but it is number 4, is helping any company that wants to launch a crypto platform, that wants to enable crypto for their users, their existing users, or even as an entrepreneur, if you just have an idea, to help them and be the infrastructure for them. And number 5, which is to help existing protocols, technologies, applications integrate cryptocurrency. So number 5 is at like a really developer technical level. Number 4 is at a corporate level. It's enterprise. That's why I'm not including them into this webinar. In this webinar, we're talking about the first 3, but those are our 5 pillars. And we have literally deployed 5, in my opinion, home runs. Again, I'm biased. Take everything I say with a grain of salt. I am hyper biased.